Captain Haniel Kim stood on the bridge of his ship, the peaceful dawn, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. He had been patrolling this quiet section of space for 6 months without seeing any trouble. That was exactly how he liked it. For 300 years, humans had followed the Terran restraint protocol. They kept their weapons small, their fleets smaller, and their voices quiet in galactic politics. "Captain," called Lieutenant Miho from the communications station, "we are getting a distress signal from the colony ship Hope's Journey." Kim turned toward her, his face showing concern. "Put it through." The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of the colony ship. Captain Young-ho appeared, his face pale and worried. Behind him, Kim could see smoke and sparks from damaged equipment. "Captain Kim, we need help immediately," Young-ho said, his voice shaking. 3 alien warships appeared from nowhere. "They are demanding we surrender our ship and all passengers." "What species are they?" Kim asked. "The Hegemony Fleet. War Prime Kellex is commanding them personally." Dr. Minji Park, who served as the diplomatic observer on Kim's ship, stepped forward. "Captain, let me speak with them. The Hegemony has always been difficult, but they follow galactic law. We can work this out peacefully." Kim nodded. "Open a channel to the Hegemony ships." The screen changed to show War Prime Kellex. He was a large creature with gray skin and 4 arms. His eyes were small and black, and when he spoke, his voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Human vessel," Kellex began. "You will not interfere. This colony ship carries 50,000 humans to establish another of your weak settlements. We will not allow more human pollution in our galaxy." Dr. Park stepped closer to the screen. "War Prime Kellex, this is Dr. Minji Park, diplomatic observer for the Terran Council. The Hope's Journey is traveling through neutral space under galactic protection laws. You have no right to stop them." Kellex made a sound that might have been laughter. "Rights? Humans speak of rights. You are weak creatures who hide behind laws because you cannot fight. Your pathetic species has contributed nothing to our galaxy except problems. The Hegemony signed the same peace treaties that govern all our actions," Park replied calmly. "We can resolve this through proper channels." "There will be no more proper channels," Kellex said, his voice growing louder. "The Hegemony Council has decided. Humans are a disease that must be removed from healthy worlds. Your colony ship will be destroyed as an example to others." Kim felt his hands tighten into fists, but he kept his voice steady. "War Prime, if you attack that ship, you will be starting a war." Kellex laughed again. "What war? Your entire fleet couldn't damage one of our ships. You fight like children playing games, always holding back, always afraid to truly commit. We have watched you for 3 centuries, and you are nothing but cowards." The communication ended abruptly. On the tactical display, Kim watched as the 3 Hegemony ships moved toward the Hope's Journey. The colony ship was huge, but had almost no weapons. It was designed to carry families to new worlds. "Not to fight battles?" Captain Miho called out. "The Hegemony ships are charging their main weapons. Move us between them and the colony ship," Kim ordered. "Raise shields and prepare for defensive action only." "Sir," said Commander Tajin from the weapons station, "our orders under the restraint protocol are clear. Minimal force, de-escalation first. Civilian protection within acceptable risk parameters. I know the protocols." Commander Dr. Park looked at the tactical display with growing worry. "Captain, maybe we should call for reinforcements. This situation is escalating beyond normal parameters." "The nearest fleet is 4 days away," Kim replied. "That colony ship doesn't have for days. The Hope's Journey tried to change course, but the massive ship was too slow." The Hegemony vessels were fast attack cruisers, built for exactly this kind of action, Captain Miho said, her voice barely a whisper. "The Hegemony ships are broadcasting on all frequencies. Let us hear it." Kellex's voice filled the bridge. "Let this be a lesson to all species in our galaxy. Humans are weak parasites who take resources from worthy civilizations. Watch as we cleanse the galaxy of their infection." The 3 Hegemony ships fired simultaneously. Their energy beams cut through the Hope's journey like knives through paper. The colony ship broke apart in sections, each piece exploding in bright flashes of light. 50,000 human civilians died in less than 30 seconds. Kim stared at the aesthetic debris field where the Hope's journey had been. Pieces of metal and plastic drifted in space, all that remained of families who had been traveling to start new. Lives, children, parents, grandparents, all dead. Captain Dr. Park said quietly, "We need to report this immediately." "Yes," Kim said, his voice strangely calm. "Open a channel to Fleet Command. Priority Alpha." The screen showed Admiral Junho Lee in his office on Earth. Lee was an older man with gray hair and scars from the early days of human space exploration. When he saw Kim's face, his expression became serious. "Captain Kim, report. Admiral, the hegemony has just destroyed a civilian colony ship in neutral space. 50,000 dead." Warprime Kellic stated this was intentional genocide to cleanse the galaxy of humans. Admiral Lee was quiet for a long moment. "Captain, are you completely certain of these facts?" "Yes, sir. Dr. Park and my entire bridge crew witnessed the attack and the statements. I am transmitting all recorded data now." "Understood." Lee paused and looked directly at Kim. "Captain, I am calling an emergency session of the Terran Council. Until further notice, maintain your position and monitor hegemony fleet movements. Do not engage unless directly attacked." Admiral Kim said, "They just murdered 50,000 civilians in cold blood. How long are we supposed to watch this happen?" "Captain, the Terran Restraint Protocol has kept peace in our galaxy for 300 years. We don't make decisions like this lightly." The communication ended. Kim turned to his crew, all of whom were staring at him. "Sir," Commander Taijan said, "what are your orders?" Kim looked back at the debris field. Somewhere in that scattered metal were the remains of children who would never grow up. Parents who would never see their new home. Elderly people who had lived long lives only to die violently in space. "We wait," Kim said. "We follow orders, and we wait." But as he spoke those words, Kim wondered how long humanity could continue to restrain itself, while others saw that restraint as weakness. 300 years of careful diplomacy had just been answered with mass murder. Maybe it was time for the galaxy to see what humans were really like when they stopped holding back. 2 hours later, Kim received a new transmission from Admiral Lee. "All ship commanders," Lee's voice said. "This is Fleet Admiral Junho Lee with emergency orders from the Terran Council. As of this moment, the Terran Restraint Protocol is suspended indefinitely." Kim felt something cold settle in his chest. In 3 centuries of space travel, those words had never been spoken. "Repeat, the Restraint Protocol is suspended. You are authorized to use any and all means necessary to protect human lives and interests." The galaxy wanted to see what humans are really like. Now they will learn. Admiral Junho Lee stood in the emergency session chamber beneath Geneva, surrounded by holographic displays showing the massacre in the Kepler system. The Terran Council members appeared as glowing projections from around Earth and the outer colonies. For the first time in 3 centuries, they were discussing the complete suspension of the restraint protocol. "The evidence is clear," said Counselor Minho from Luna Base. Warprime Kellic deliberately targeted civilians and declared his intention to exterminate humanity. This was not a military engagement. It was attempted genocide. Counselor. Yuna's projection flickered as she accessed classified files. "Admiral Lee, what are the implications of removing all restraints on our military capabilities?" Lee activated his personal display, showing weapons, systems, and tactical doctrines that had been locked away since humanity first encountered alien civilizations. "Counselor, we have been operating at approximately 12% of our actual military capacity. The restraint protocol required us to use only technologies and tactics that other species would consider acceptable for civilized warfare. And without those restrictions?" asked Counselor Tae-yoon from the Mars colonies. "Without restrictions, we become what we always were, the apex predator species from a death world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years of evolution, Dr. Minji. Park appeared via transmission from Captain Kim's ship, where she was documenting the aftermath of the colony ship massacre. Counselors, I have completed my analysis of the attack. The hegemony forces used weapons specifically designed to cause maximum suffering. They wanted those people to die slowly. The chamber fell silent as delegates absorbed this information. Dr. Park, Counselor Minho said quietly. In your professional opinion, as our senior xenobiologist, how do other species view humanity? They see us as weak because we choose diplomatic solutions over military ones. They see us as limited because we use minimal force even when provoked. They see us as inferior because we adapt our behavior to accommodate their comfort levels. Park paused, her voice becoming harder. They have no idea what humans are actually capable of when we stop holding back. Admiral Lee stood and walked to the center of the chamber. Counselors, I am requesting formal authorization to suspend the Terran Restraint Protocol indefinitely. The galaxy needs to understand that our peaceful behavior was a choice. It's not a limitation. The vote was unanimous. Captain Haniel Kim received the authorization codes 2 hours later. He stood on his bridge, looking at displays that showed weapons systems he had never been allowed to use, tactical options that had been forbidden, strategic capabilities that most of his crew did not even know existed. Captain Commander Tajin said nervously, "These weapon specifications are unlike anything in our training manuals." "That's because they were classified above our clearance level," Kim replied. "The restraint protocol required us to fight like other species expect us to fight. Those limitations have been removed." Lieutenant Miho looked up from her station. "Sir, I'm reading massive power signatures from our weapon systems. Are these readings correct?" "Unfortunately for our enemies, yes." Ho. Kim's transmission simultaneously. Captains who had spent their entire careers following strict rules of engagement suddenly found themselves with access to humanity's true military potential. "All commanders," Kim announced. "This is Captain Kim with priority alpha orders from Fleet Command. The Terran Restraint Protocol has been suspended. You are now authorized to use all available resources to protect human lives and interests. The galaxy chose war with us. Now they will learn what war with humans actually means." Engineer Dongman. Yoon was working frantically in the weapons development facility hidden beneath the moon's surface. For 3 centuries, this facility had continued developing military technology that humanity was forbidden to deploy. Today, those restrictions ended. "How long until the new systems are operational?" he asked his team leader, Dr. Siajin. "The kinetic bombardment systems can be deployed to our fleets within 18 hours, Siajin replied. "The environmental warfare packages will take longer, perhaps 3 days for full deployment." "Environmental warfare?" asked Junior Engineer Hyaram. Yoon explained. "We can modify atmospheric composition, alter gravity fields, change temperature and pressure to levels that are comfortable for humans but lethal to most other species." "But that seems ... cruel?" Yoon interrupted. "Tell that to the 50,000 civilians who died screaming in the vacuum of space yesterday. The hegemony wants to see what humans are really like. We are going to show them." Commander Sora Choi was briefing her special operations team aboard the stealth ship Silent Hunter. Her soldiers were reviewing tactical data that had been classified beyond their previous clearance levels. "Team leaders," she began. "Our new mission parameters are unlike anything we have trained for under the restraint protocol. We will be operating in environments that would kill most alien species, using tactics that other civilizations would consider impossible." Sergeant Kung Ho raised his hand. "Commander, these environmental suits are rated for conditions far beyond standard human tolerance. What exactly are we expected to survive?" "Everything," Choi replied simply. "Humans evolved on a world that was actively trying to kill us. We can survive in vacuum longer than most species can hold their breath. We can operate in radiation that would sterilize alien crews. We can function in gravity that would crush other life forms and temperatures that would freeze or boil most biological matter." She activated the tactical display. Our target is the Hegemony Forward Command Base on Zarian Prime. The planet has crushing gravity, toxic atmosphere, and surface temperatures that fluctuate between boiling and freezing. The aliens consider it a perfect defensive position because no other species can survive there. And us? Asked Sergeant Minju. For us, it's just Tuesday. Warprime Kellex was reviewing intelligence reports in his command ship when first human response arrived. He had expected negotiation requests, perhaps economic sanctions, or at most a limited military response following the aliens' rules of civilized warfare. Instead, his sensors detected human ships moving at speeds that should have been impossible for their technology. They were approaching from directions that no rational, tactical doctrine would suggest, and they were broadcasting on frequencies that hurt his species' hearing. Sir, his communications officer reported, the human ships are transmitting something. It appears to be ... music. Music. Kellex demanded. Yes, sir. Very loud, very aggressive music. Our translators identify it as something called heavy metal and war songs. Kellex listened to the alien sounds coming from the human ships. The music was harsh, driving, and filled with references to violence and survival that made his species instinctively uncomfortable. They are trying to intimidate us with, noise, he concluded. Begin standard engagement protocols. His weapons officer looked confused. Sir, our targeting systems cannot lock on to the human vessels. They appear to be using some form of stealth technology we have not encountered before. Impossible. Human technology is inferior to ours, sir. Perhaps we should reconsider our intelligence assessments. Before Kellex could respond, the human ships opened fire. But instead of the limited energy weapons that humans had used in previous encounters, these ships unleashed weapons that defied everything the hegemony thought they knew about human capabilities: kinetic projectiles moving at significant fractions of light. Speed tore through hegemony shields like they were made of paper. Energy beams, with frequencies specifically tuned to disrupt alien nervous systems, left enemy crews unable to function. Most terrifying of all, the humans seemed to be coordinating their attacks without any detectable communications, as if they were a single organism with multiple bodies. How are they doing this? Kellex screamed as his fleet was systematically destroyed around him. His tactical officer, pale with shock, could barely speak. Sir, they are not fighting like separate ships. They are fighting like a pack. Captain Kim watched the destruction of Kellex's forward fleet with grim satisfaction. His ships had used less than 30% of their newly available firepower, but the psychological impact was exactly what he had hoped for. Open. Channel to Warprime Kellex, he ordered. Kellex's face appeared on screen, no longer showing the arrogant confidence he had displayed when murdering civilians. Warprime, Kim said calmly, you wanted to see what humans are really like when we stop pretending to be weak. This is just the beginning. You cannot do this, Kellex protested. There are rules of war, conventions that govern civilized conflict. Those rules were written by species that never had to evolve on a death world, Kim replied. You declared your intention to exterminate humanity. Now you get to experience what it feels like when an entire species decides you are a threat to be eliminated. The transmission ended, leaving Kellex staring at tactical displays showing the complete destruction of his supposedly superior fleet. Dr. Park was compiling her report for the Galactic Council when she received an urgent message from Admiral Lee. Dr. Park Lee's. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Humanity had removed the restraint protocol. For 3 centuries, other species had watched humans act with careful diplomacy and limited military response. Now, everything had changed. Scholar Narek sat in his research chamber on the neutral world of Sanctuary Prime, reading reports that made his scales turn pale with fear. He had spent decades studying human history and biology. Unlike most of his colleagues, he understood what the galaxy was about to face. His research assistant, a young Vorthan named Quelex, entered the chamber carrying data tablets. Scholar Narek, Quelex said, the Galactic Council is requesting your immediate testimony about human capabilities. Narix looked up from his work. 3 years too late. I sent them 17 detailed reports about humanity's true nature. They ignored every one. But surely humans cannot be that different from what we have observed, Quillex said. They have been peaceful neighbors for centuries. Peaceful by choice, not by limitation, Nerix replied. Do you know what a death world is, Quillex? A planet too dangerous for most species to survive on. Earth is not just a death world. It is perhaps the most dangerous planet ever to produce intelligent life. Humans evolved as apex predators on a world where nearly everything could kill them. They learned to hunt in packs, to never give up pursuit of prey, and to adapt to any environment. Nerix activated his wall display, showing images of Earth's wildlife. Look at these creatures. Humans shared their world with animals that could crush them, poison them, or tear them apart. Yet humans became the dominant species. How do you think they managed that? Quillex stared at the images. I do not know. They outhunted everything else. They ran their prey to exhaustion across vast distances. They used tools and fire and worked together in ways no other Earth species could match. And most importantly, they never stopped adapting. Meanwhile, Captain Haniel Kim was leading his fleet toward the Kepler system, where 3 human colonies were under hegemony occupation. The aliens had taken control of the worlds immediately after destroying the Hope's journey. Expecting no serious resistance, they were about to learn how wrong they were. Captain Lieutenant Miho reported, We are detecting 12 hegemony warships in the system. They are spread across all 3 colony worlds. Perfect, Kim said. They divided their forces. Commander Taijan, are our new weapon systems operational? All systems ready, Captain. The engineers have been working around the clock to install the unrestricted armaments. Dr. Minji Park, now serving as strategic advisor, stepped forward. Captain, our intelligence reports show the hegemony forces are using standard occupation tactics. They expect us to negotiate for the release of our colonists. They expect wrong, Kim replied. Signal the fleet. We begin Phase 1. The 12 ships in Kim's fleet suddenly split apart and disappeared from hegemony sensors. The aliens had never seen human stealth technology because humans had never used it before. The restraint protocol had forbidden such aggressive tactics. War Prime Kellex, commanding the occupation from his flagship above the first colony world, stared at his tactical display in confusion. Where did they go? He demanded. Unknown War Prime, his tactical officer replied. Their ships simply vanished from all sensors. Impossible. Run a full system scan. Before the scan could complete, explosions began erupting across the hegemony fleet. Kim's ships had not disappeared. They had simply stopped broadcasting there. Positions and activated systems designed to make them nearly invisible to alien sensors. The first hegemony ship lost its engines. The second lost its weapons. The third began spinning out of control as its navigation systems failed. The attacks were precise and devastating. This is impossible, Kellex snarled. Human technology is inferior to ours. His communications officer looked terrified. War Prime, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Kim's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, his bridge crew worked calmly and efficiently. War Prime Kellex, Kim said, his voice completely steady. You have 10 minutes to evacuate all your forces from human colony worlds. After that, we will consider any alien presence an act of war. You dare threaten me? Kellex roared. Your pathetic fleet cannot defeat our superior firepower. We are not threatening you, Kim replied. We are informing you. Your ships are already disabled. Your weapons are offline. Your communications with the other occupation fleets have been jammed. You have 9 minutes and 30 seconds. Kellex looked at his tactical display. Half his ships were showing red warning lights. His flagship was still operational, but barely. How is this possible? He whispered, For 300 years, we studied your technology, your tactics, and your psychology, Kim explained. We know exactly how your ships work, exactly how your minds work, and exactly how to defeat you. The only reason you controlled any space at all was because we allowed it, Commander Sora. Choi was leading the ground assault on the second colony world. Her team of 50 human soldiers moved through terrain that should have been impossible for any species to cross. The gravity was 3 times Earth normal. The atmosphere contained chemicals that were toxic to most alien species. For humans, it was just another hostile environment to adapt to. Team leaders. "Report in," Choi said through her communicator. "Team 1 in position," came the first response. "We have eyes on the hegemony garrison." "Team 2 ready," said another voice. "No alien patrols detected. Team 3 standing by." "The colonists are being held in the central compound." Choi smiled grimly. The hegemony soldiers were staying inside their environmental suits and sealed buildings. They could not survive in the open air of this world for more than a few minutes. Humans had been living and were working on this planet for 50 years. "Begin the liberation," Choi ordered. The attack was over in 20 minutes. Hegemony soldiers, unable to move effectively in the heavy gravity and toxic atmosphere, surrendered quickly when human forces seemed to appear from nowhere. Choi's team moved like ghosts through terrain that the aliens could barely navigate. When War Prime Kelix received the reports from all 3 colony worlds, he finally understood what Scholar Nerix had been trying to warn the galaxy about. Humans were not weak. They had never been weak. They had simply been choosing not to demonstrate their true capabilities. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships, immediate withdrawal from human space." But as his damaged fleet limped away from the Kepler system, Kelix realized something terrifying. The humans had let him go. They could have destroyed his entire fleet easily, but they chose to send a message instead. They wanted the galaxy to know what had happened here. Back on Sanctuary Prime, Scholar Nerix received the battle reports with a heavy heart. He called an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council. "Honored delegates," he said to the assembled representatives. "What happened in the Kepler system was not a battle. It was a demonstration. Humanity showed us a tiny fraction of their true capabilities." The Centauran delegate spoke up. "Surely you exaggerate. How could humans hide such advanced technology?" "They did not hide it," Nerix replied. "They simply never used it. Every human ship, every human colony, every human diplomat has been operating under severe restrictions for 3 centuries. Those restrictions have now been removed." He activated his display, showing tactical analysis of the Kepler engagement. Humans did not defeat the hegemony through superior firepower. They defeated them through superior knowledge, superior tactics, and superior adaptation. They knew exactly how hegemony technology worked because they had been studying it peacefully for centuries. Now they are using that knowledge for war. The chamber fell silent as delegates realized the implications. "What do we do?" asked the Vorthan representative. Nerix looked around the room at the faces of species who had dismissed humanity as weak and primitive. "We pray they remembered that some of us tried to be their friends." High Chancellor Vorth stood in the great assembly hall of the hegemony capital world, surrounded by holographic displays showing the disaster unfolding across their territory. Red markers indicated lost systems, yellow showed systems under attack, and green marked the few areas still under hegemony control. There was far too much red. "How many systems have we lost?" Vorth demanded. General Thrakos, his primary military advisor, consulted his datapad with shaking hands. 47 systems in the past 2 weeks, Chancellor. "The humans are advancing on all fronts simultaneously. That should be impossible," Vorth said. "Our intelligence reports show they have only 300 ships in their entire fleet." "Our intelligence was wrong about many things," Thrakos replied quietly. On the other side of the galaxy, Engineer Dong Minyun was working in the hidden research facility beneath Luna Base. For 3 centuries, this facility had existed in secret, developing weapons and technologies that the restraint protocol had forbidden humans from. Using the mass drivers are ready for deployment, he reported to Admiral Junho Lee via secure communication. "We can accelerate projectiles to 15% of light speed. Acceptable casualties to our own forces?" Lee asked. 0, if we maintain minimum safe distance of 50,000 kilometers. "And the radiation weapons?" "Operational on all fronts." The beauty of these systems is that most alien species cannot survive the radiation levels that humans consider merely uncomfortable. Lee added approvingly. Begin deployment to all fleet commanders. Priority goes to Captain Kim's advance forces. Commander. Sora Choi was leading her special operations team through the toxic swamps of hegemony. World Vex Prime. The planet's atmosphere was filled with corrosive chemicals that would dissolve most species within hours. Humans needed only basic protective gear to operate there indefinitely. Target identified, she reported to her team. Hegemony command bunker, 2 kilometers ahead. Her second in command, Lieutenant Jinwoo, checked his scanner. No patrol activity detected. They must be staying inside their sealed bunkers. Of course they are, Choi said with grim satisfaction. They cannot survive in this environment. We own this entire planet just by being able to walk around on it. The assault on the command bunker took less than an hour. Hegemony forces, trapped inside their environmental protection systems, could not pursue the human soldiers who moved freely through terrain that was deadly to alien biology. War Prime Kellex, now commanding the desperate defense of the Hegemony core worlds, received reports that made no tactical sense. They are attacking simultaneously in the crushing depths of Altairus gas giant, the radioactive storms of the Nexus Nebula, in the frozen void around the dead star Mortis, his aide reported. How can they deploy forces in environments where our ships cannot even function? Show me the tactical displays, Kellex ordered. The holographic battle map revealed human forces operating in dozens of locations that should have been impossible for any species to survive. They were fighting inside gas giant atmospheres where the pressure would crush most ships. They were operating in radiation fields that would kill other species in minutes. They were conducting battles in the absolute cold of deep space where life support systems failed. Sir, his tactical officer said nervously, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet in the Nexus sector. Captain Haniel Kim appeared on the main screen. Behind him, warning lights flashed red, indicating his ship was operating in conditions that should have been fatal. War Prime Kellex, Kim said calmly. Your forces have been requesting reinforcements for the past week. I thought you should know that no help is coming. What do you mean? Kellex demanded. We control all hyperspace lanes leading to your territory. We have blockaded your supply lines. Your colonies are cut off from your military forces. And most importantly, we have learned the locations of all your hidden bases. Kim gestured to something off-screen. Dr. Park, please explain to War Prime Kellex what we discovered. Dr. Minji Park appeared beside Kim, holding a data tablet. War Prime, for 300 years. Human diplomats have been visiting hegemony worlds, attending cultural exchanges, and participating in joint scientific projects. We have detailed maps of every military installation, complete psychological profiles of your leadership, and full technical specifications of all your equipment. Impossible, Kellex said. Our security is absolute. Your security was designed to stop species that think like you, Park replied. Humans think differently. We notice different things. We remember different details. We adapt our methods to whatever challenges we face. Kim stepped forward again. War Prime, your species evolved on a world with low gravity, stable climate, and abundant resources. You never learned to deal with truly hostile environments or desperate situations. Humans evolved on a death world where everything was trying to kill us. We learned to survive by being more persistent, more adaptable, and more creative than anything else on our planet. The communication ended, leaving Kellex staring at a blank screen. Around him, his command staff waited for orders. Sir, his aide whispered, what are your commands? Kellex looked at the tactical display showing the systematic destruction of everything his people had built. Human forces were not just winning battles, they were dismantling the entire hegemony piece by piece. Send a message to High Chancellor Vorth, he said finally. Tell him the war is lost, on Earth. Admiral Lee was coordinating the largest military operation in human history from the command center deep beneath Geneva. Holographic displays showed the progress of human forces across dozens of star systems. Status report, He ordered all fronts are advancing ahead of schedule, reported his aide, Commander Suyan. Captain Kim has secured the outer systems. Commander Choi has neutralized ground-based resistance on 17 worlds. Engineer Yoon's new weapon systems are performing beyond expectations. Casualties. Human casualties remain minimal. Enemy forces are surrendering rather than face continued combat in hostile environments. Lee nodded grimly. They are beginning to understand what they provoked. Dr. Park appeared on one of the communication screens. Admiral, we are receiving surrender requests from 43 hegemony worlds. They want to negotiate terms. What terms are they offering? Complete withdrawal from all disputed territories, payment of reparations for the colony ship massacre, and recognition of human territorial claims. Lee considered this for a moment. Not enough, sir? They started this war by murdering 50,000 civilians and declaring their intention to exterminate humanity. They do not get to negotiate a convenient end to hostilities when they realize they are losing. What are your orders? Continue all operations. We do not stop until the hegemony government surrenders unconditionally and submits to human oversight of their military forces. Meanwhile, Scholar Nerix was preparing his final report for the Galactic Council. He had been documenting the human military campaign and its implications for galactic civilization. The conclusion is inevitable, he dictated to his recording device. Humanity was never the weak species we believed them to be. They were always the apex predators of their galaxy. The only thing that protected us was their own moral restraint. He paused, looking at the latest battle reports. That restraint has been removed. The galaxy now faces a species that combines the tactical intelligence of the finest military minds with the biological advantages of evolution on a death world. They are not cruel or sadistic. They are simply more effective at warfare than any species we have ever encountered. The recording device beeped, indicating low power. Personal note, Nerix added. I have sent messages to the human diplomatic corps requesting a meeting. If they are willing to show mercy to species that did not participate in the attack on their civilians, there may still be hope for peaceful coexistence. He turned off the recorder and looked out the window of his research facility. In the distance, he could see human ships patrolling the space around Sanctuary Prime. They had arrived 3 days ago, but had not made any hostile moves toward the neutral world yet. The hunt had truly begun, and humanity was proving to be the perfect predator species. The galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Representatives from hundreds of species argued loudly while emergency broadcasts from the war zone played on massive screens. The systematic collapse of the hegemony was sending shockwaves throughout galactic civilization. Chancellor Orcs' image appeared on the main display broadcast from his bunker on the hegemony capital world. His once proud appearance was now haggard and desperate. Honored delegates of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice shaking. I formally request immediate intervention to stop human aggression against hegemony worlds. The Centauran delegates stood up. Chancellor Vorthew initiated this conflict by destroying a civilian colony ship and declaring war on humanity. How can you now claim to be the victim? The humans have revealed weapons and capabilities far beyond anything they previously demonstrated, Vorth replied. They deceived us all about their true military strength. Scholar Nerix activated his speaking device from his seat in the observation area. Honored Chancellor, if I may correct your statement, humans did not deceive anyone. They simply followed the restraint protocol they imposed upon themselves 3 centuries ago. Every diplomatic report about human capabilities was available in Council archives. Your government chose to ignore those reports. The Vorthan delegate waved his appendages excitedly. This scholar speaks truth. My own intelligence services have reviewed human cultural exchanges from the past century, their entertainment media, their historical records, their scientific papers, all contained clear evidence of their potential for warfare. We dismissed it as primitive barbarism. Dr. Minji Park appeared via holographic transmission from the human diplomatic ship approaching council space. Honored delegates, she said, her voice calm and professional. The Terran Council wishes to address concerns about our current military operations. Dr. Park, said the council president. An ancient Etherian named Zephin. The council demands an immediate ceasefire and return to diplomatic negotiations. With respect. President Zephin, humanity tried diplomatic solutions for 3 centuries. The response was the murder of 50,000 civilians and a declaration that humans should be exterminated. Diplomacy requires both parties to negotiate in good faith, but your forces are using tactics that violate the accepted rules of civilized warfare, protested the Altarian delegate. Dr. Park smiled grimly. We are using human tactics against species that chose war with us. If those tactics seem uncivilized, perhaps you should consider why you find effective warfare so disturbing. On the screen behind her, live footage showed human forces operating in environments that made council delegates gasp with shock. Humans were fighting battles inside asteroid fields, in the hearts of nebulas, and on worlds with gravity that would flatten most species. Captain Haniel Kim was leading his fleet through the Ma Nebula, a region of space so dangerous that all species had declared it off limits to travel. The radiation levels were lethal to most forms of life, and the gravitational anomalies could tear ships apart. For humans, it was just another tactical advantage. Target confirmed, reported Lieutenant Miho. Hegemony supply convoy, attempting to use the Ma as a hiding place. They thought the radiation would protect them, Kim observed. They forgot that humans evolved under radiation from their own sun. Commander Tejan, prepare to engage. The brief battle that followed was completely one-sided. Hegemony ships, their crews already weakened by radiation that barely affected the humans, surrendered within minutes, Captain Miho reported. We are receiving surrender requests from 17 more Hegemony systems. They are offering complete capitulation. Forward their surrender to Admiral Lee, Kim replied. We continue operations until ordered to stop, Engineer Dongmin. Yoon was now working from a mobile command ship near the front lines, adapting human technology to exploit every weakness in alien defenses. His latest project was a terraforming system that could reshape entire planets in weeks instead of centuries. Admiral Lee, he reported via secure communication. The rapid terraforming system is ready for demonstration. Show me. Lee replied. The display showed a lifeless rock planet in a contested system. Over the course of 6 hours, Yoon's automated systems completely transformed its surface. Atmosphere generators filled the sky with breathable air. Climate controllers established stable weather patterns. Biological seeding systems introduced plant and animal life that would support human colonization. The hegemony worlds that surrender will have their environments adjusted to be more suitable for human oversight, Yoon explained. Worlds that continue to resist will be made uninhabitable to their current species, but it's perfect for human settlers. How long until full deployment? Lee asked. The equipment can be installed on any human ship within 72 hours. Commander Sora Choi was leading the occupation of the Hegemony Military Academy on Strategos Prime. The planet's defense systems had been specifically designed to make invasion impossible. Its high gravity, toxic atmosphere, and extreme temperatures should have stopped any assault force. Instead, Choi found the environment pleasantly challenging. Team leaders. Report, she said through her communicator. Academy secured, came the first response. All enemy personnel have surrendered. Military archives captured intact, reported another team leader. We now have complete records of hegemony military doctrine, training methods, and strategic planning. Weapons research facility secured. No casualties to our forces. Choi smiled as she looked around the alien military academy. The hegemony had spent centuries training their soldiers to fight in comfortable, controlled environments. They had no experience with the kind of adaptive warfare that humans considered normal. All teams, begin Phase 2. Start interviewing captured personnel. We need to understand their command structure completely before we move to the next System War Prime Kellex had retreated to his personal fortress on the moon of Hegemon Prime. The facility was built inside a mountain and protected by the most advanced defenses the hegemony could create. It was supposed to be impregnable. He was reviewing the latest battle reports when his aide rushed into the command center. War Prime, we have a problem. Human forces have landed on the surface. Impossible, Kellex said. The surface temperature is negative 200 degrees. The atmosphere is pure methane. Nothing can survive there, sir. Should see the visual feeds. The main screen showed human soldiers walking across the moon's surface wearing only basic environmental suits. They were moving efficiently toward the fortress entrance, completely unaffected by conditions that would kill most species in seconds. They are operating in an environment that our own forces cannot survive in, his aide whispered. How is this possible? Because they come from a world that tried to kill them every day, Kellex said quietly. We forgot that survival on Earth requires adapting to impossible conditions. The fortress fell in 4 hours. Kellex surrendered personally when human forces reached his command center, their soldiers showing no signs of stress from operating in the lethal environment. Outside, back in the Galactic Council chamber, emergency sessions were being called every few hours as more reports arrived. From the war zone, the hegemony has lost 70% of their territory, reported the intelligence coordinator. Human forces are advancing at unprecedented speed. How many human casualties? Asked President Zeffin. According to our intelligence, fewer than 3,000 wounded and less than 500 dead across all fronts. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Species that had fought wars with casualties in the millions could not understand how humans were achieving such. Scholar Nerix requested permission to speak. Honored delegates, I have been analyzing human tactical methods. They are not fighting the war that the hegemony expected. Explain, ordered the president. The hegemony prepared for conventional warfare between comparable military forces. Instead, they are facing a species that turns every environment into a weapon. Humans fight where their enemies cannot survive. They use conditions that are hostile to aliens, but manageable for humans. He activated his data display. Every major battle has been fought in locations where human biology gives them overwhelming advantages. They are not winning through superior numbers or better weapons. They are winning by being more adapted to hostile conditions than any other species in the galaxy. The Centauran delegate spoke up. What does this mean for the rest of us? It means that if humans decide other species are threats to their survival, we would face the same systematic defeat that the hegemony is experiencing. The chamber fell silent as delegates contemplated this possibility, however. Nerix continued. Humans have shown that they prefer peaceful coexistence when possible. Species that were not involved in the attack on their civilians have been left alone. They are not conquerors seeking to dominate everyone. They are predators, eliminating a specific threat. Dr. Park reappeared on the communication screen. Honored delegates, the Terran Council has a message for the galactic community. We did not seek this war. We preferred 3 centuries of peaceful cooperation. But we will not allow any species to threaten human survival. What are your intentions regarding non-combatant species? President Zeffin asked, the same as they have always been. We wish to live in peace. High Chancellor Vorth stood alone in his private chamber, looking out at the human fleet that now surrounded Hegemon Prime. 3 months ago, had commanded the largest military force in the galaxy. Today, he was preparing to surrender unconditionally to a species he had dismissed as weak and primitive. The door chimed, and War Prime Kellex entered. The proud military commander was now a broken individual, his confidence shattered by defeat after defeat. The human delegation has arrived, Kellex reported quietly. They are requesting your presence in the main assembly hall. Any final word from our allies? Vorth asked. The collective has declared neutrality. The Federation is negotiating separate peace agreements with human forces. The Empire has offered tribute to avoid invasion. Kellex paused. We are alone, Chancellor. Vorth nodded slowly. 3 centuries we spent building our power, convinced that humans were too weak to challenge us. We were so wrong. In the assembly hall, Admiral Jun-Ho Lee sat at the head of a table flanked by Captain Hanyul Kim, Dr. Minji Park, Commander Sora Choi, and Engineer Dong Min-yoon. The human delegation looked calm and professional, showing none of the triumph that might be expected from the winning side of such a decisive war. Chancellor Vorth entered with his remaining advisors and took his seat across from the humans. Admiral Lee Vorth began. The hegemony formally surrenders and requests terms for ending hostilities. There are no terms to negotiate, Lee replied simply. This is unconditional surrender. You will accept our requirements or we will continue operations until your government ceases to exist. Dr. Park activated a holographic display showing the current state of hegemony space. You have lost control of 87% of your territory. Your military forces have been systematically destroyed or captured. Your industrial capacity has been reduced to 15% of pre-war levels. What do you want from us? Vorth asked. Captain Kim leaned forward. First, complete disarmament of all hegemony military forces. Second, payment of reparations for the civilian lives lost in your unprovoked attack. Third, submission to human oversight of all future hegemony military and expansion activities. You want to make us slaves? Kellic said bitterly. No, Commander Choi replied. We want to make sure you never again mistake peaceful cooperation for weakness. Your species will be free to govern yourselves, trade with other worlds, and pursue your own development. But you will never again possess the capability to commit genocide against civilian populations, Engineer Yoon added. We are prepared to share certain technologies that will improve life on hegemony worlds. Medical advances, environmental systems, agricultural improvements, but military technology will remain under human control. Vorth looked around the table at the human faces. They showed no hatred, no desire for revenge. They were simply eliminating a threat with the same methodical efficiency they had shown throughout the war. How long will this oversight continue? He asked. Until we are satisfied that your species understands the difference between strength and brutality, Admiral Lee answered. That may take decades or centuries. It will depend entirely on your people's behavior. Dr. Park handed Vorth a data tablet. These are the complete terms. You have 24 hours to review them and provide your government's formal acceptance. Meanwhile, Scholar Nerix was addressing an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered to discuss the implications of humanity's decisive victory. The war's effectively over, he reported. Human forces have achieved complete military dominance throughout former hegemony space. The question now is what this means for the rest of galactic civilization. President Zephin spoke from his elevated platform. Scholar Nerix, in your assessment, do humans intend to expand their military operations to other species based on their statements and actions? No. They have consistently ignored opportunities to attack neutral or allied worlds. Their focus remains entirely on the hegemony forces that initiated the conflict. The Vorthan delegate raised his appendages, but they now possess the demonstrated capability to defeat any species in the galaxy. How can we ensure they do not become conquerors themselves? Nerix activated his data display, because they never wanted to be conquerors in the first place. For 3 centuries, humans actively restrained their own capabilities to maintain peaceful relations. It was only when faced with attempted genocide that they removed those restraints. Dr. Park appeared via holographic transmission. Honored delegates, the Terran Council wishes to address concerns about our future intentions. Dr. Park, President Zephin said the Council requests assurance that human military operations will not expand beyond the current conflict. The Terran Council has no desire to rule other species, Park replied. We prefer the same peaceful coexistence we maintained before the hegemony attacked our civilians. However, we will no longer operate under the severe restrictions of the restraint protocol. What does that mean for galactic relations? Asked the Centauran delegate. It means that humanity will participate in galactic affairs as an equal partner, not as a species that accepts secondary status to avoid conflict. We will defend our interests and protect our people using whatever methods are necessary. The Altarian delegate spoke nervously. But your demonstrated military capabilities far exceed those of any other species. That is correct, Park acknowledged. We hope that knowledge will encourage other species to resolve disputes through negotiation rather than warfare. Captain Kim was conducting the final assault on the last hegemony stronghold, a military base built inside an asteroid in the outer reaches of their home system. The facility was designed to be completely impregnable, hidden inside solid rock with enough supplies to last for decades. Captain Lieutenant Miho reported, "The asteroid base is refusing surrender demands." "Their choice," Kim replied. "Begin deep drilling operations." Engineer Yoon had designed special mining equipment that could bore through solid rock while creating tunnels large enough for human soldiers to move through. Within hours, Kim's forces were inside the asteroid, bypassing all exterior defenses. The final battle of the war lasted 20 minutes, back on Earth. Admiral Lee was meeting with the Terran Council to discuss post-war policies. "The hegemony has formally accepted unconditional surrender," he reported. "All their military forces have been disarmed. Reparations payments will begin immediately." "What about the other species?" asked Counselor Yuna. "How are they responding to our victory?" 47 species have requested formal alliance agreements," Lee replied. 18 others have offered tribute or trade concessions without being asked. The galaxy is rapidly adjusting to the new reality, and that reality is, humanity is now the dominant military power in galactic space. Other species are eager to ensure they remain on friendly terms with us. Dr. Park entered the meeting room carrying reports from across the galaxy. "Admiral, we are receiving requests for human mediation in 63 different territorial disputes. Species that have been enemies for centuries are asking us to help them find peaceful solutions." "Why?" asked Counselor Minho. "Because they have seen what happens when diplomacy fails and humans become involved militarily," Park explained. "No one wants to risk ending up like the hegemony." Commander Choi was overseeing the establishment of human monitoring stations throughout former hegemony space. These facilities would ensure compliance with surrender terms while providing assistance to civilian populations. "The transition is proceeding smoothly," she reported to Admiral Lee. "Most hegemony worlds are cooperating fully with our requirements. They seem genuinely grateful that we are not seeking revenge for their government's actions and the military personnel. Many are requesting to join our oversight forces. They want to learn human tactical methods." Lee smiled grimly. "They spent centuries believing we were weak because we held back. Now they understand the difference between restraint and inability." Scholar Nerix published his final report 6 months after the end of the war. The document, titled The Gentle Apocalypse, How Humanity Conquered Without Conquering, became required reading throughout galactic civilization. In his conclusion, he wrote, "Humanity demonstrated that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to choose when destruction is necessary. They could have exterminated the hegemony completely, but instead chose to rehabilitate a species that had sought their genocide. This restraint, paradoxically, makes them more feared and respected than any conqueror in galactic history. The new galactic order was unlike anything that had existed before. Humans did not rule directly, but their influence was felt everywhere. Disputes that might once have led to wars were now resolved through negotiation. With the implicit understanding that military solutions would inevitably favor humanity, Ambassador Heine Nam opened the first session of the Reformed Galactic Council. With words that would be remembered for centuries, humanity offers partnership to those who seek peace, protection to those who need help, and swift justice to those who threaten innocent lives. We hope wisdom will guide your choices." War Prime Kellex, now serving as a liaison officer in the Human Oversight Administration, often reflected on how completely he had misunderstood his enemy. In his private journal, he wrote, "We saw. The galaxy learned to live with the knowledge that humanity could end any threat to galactic peace, but chose not to unless absolutely necessary. This knowledge brought a stability that had never existed before, built not on balance of power between equals, but on the restraint of those with overwhelming superiority." High Chancellor Vorth, now living quietly on a human-supervised world, spent his remaining years studying human history and culture. In his final interview, he said, "I started a war with beings I thought were weak prey animals. I discovered they were apex predators who had been choosing not to hunt. The galaxy is safer now because those predators have revealed themselves. No one will ever again make the mistake of thinking humanity can be safely threatened. The Terran Protectorate, as the new galactic government became known, maintained peace not through oppression but through the simple understanding that humanity would respond to genuine threats with overwhelming force. While protecting those who sought only to live in peace, Captain Kim, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, established the human response doctrine: we will not seek enemies, but we will destroy any who seek to destroy us. We will not conquer worlds, but we will protect the right of all species to exist free from fear. We will not rule the galaxy, but we will ensure that those who would abuse power can never do. So, the galaxy had learned the most important lesson in its history. True Deathworlders are not defined by their willingness to kill, but by their ability to choose not to kill when they easily could. Humanity had proven they were the ultimate apex predators, not by their capacity for violence, but by their wisdom in restraining that capacity until it became absolutely necessary. The war was over, but its lessons would guide galactic civilization for millennia. 5 years had passed since the end of the Hegemony War. The galaxy had settled into a new rhythm of peace and cooperation that few species had ever imagined possible. Captain Haniel Kim, now Admiral Kim, stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above New Geneva, watching as ships from dozens of species arrived for the 5th Annual Galactic Peace Conference. Admiral Lieutenant Miho, now promoted to commander, approached with the daily reports. All delegations have arrived safely. Security sweeps show no threats detected. Good, Kim replied. Any word from the Hegemony representatives? Former Chancellor Vorth's daughter, Minister Lyrics, is leading their delegation. She has requested a private meeting to discuss the infrastructure development projects. Kim nodded. The Hegemony worlds had been completely transformed under human guidance. What had once been a militant empire focused on conquest was now a productive member of galactic society. Their aggressive instincts channeled into peaceful competition in trade and cultural exchange. Dr. Minji Park, now serving as Director of Interspecies Relations, was reviewing her presentation for the conference. The past 5 years had seen unprecedented cooperation between species that had previously been enemies or competitors. The statistics are remarkable, she told her assistant, Dr. Jisoo. Violent conflicts between species are down 93% from pre-war levels. Trade relationships have increased by 400%. Scientific collaboration projects now involve an average of 12 different species working together, and the Hegemony integration. Beyond all expectations, their former military officers have become some of our most effective peacekeeping administrators. They understand the importance of preventing conflict better than anyone. In the main conference hall, delegates from across the galaxy gathered to hear the opening address. Admiral Junho Lee, now serving as the first human galactic coordinator, took the podium. Friends and colleagues, he began, 5 years ago, the galaxy learned a painful lesson about the cost of mistaking restraint for weakness. Today, we celebrate the peace that grew from that tragedy. The audience included representatives from species that had once viewed each other as mortal enemies. The Centauran delegate sat next to a Vorthan ambassador, discussing joint mining operations. Former Hegemony worlds sent trade representatives to negotiate partnerships with species they had once planned to conquer. The Terran Protectorate exists not to rule, but to ensure that no species ever again faces the choice between submission and extinction, Lee continued. We have learned that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy enemies, but from the wisdom to turn enemies into allies. Commander Sora Choi was conducting a routine inspection of the Peacekeeping Force training facility on Mars. The facility now hosted officers from over 60 different species, all learning human tactical methods and conflict resolution techniques. The new recruits are adapting well, reported Training Director Captain Woojin. The Hegemony candidates are particularly motivated. They seem determined to prove their commitment to the new order. Their government's mistake cost them everything, Choi replied. They want to make sure no one repeats that error. She watched as mixed Teams of different species worked together on training exercises. Humans still dominated the scenarios due to their superior adaptability. But other species were learning to complement human capabilities with their own unique strengths. Engineer Dong Minyun had established research facilities throughout the galaxy, sharing human technological advances with allied species while maintaining control over the most dangerous weapon systems. The medical technology transfers have been incredibly successful, he reported to Admiral Lee. Average lifespan across all allied species has increased by 23%. Disease mortality is down by 60%. And the military technology? Strictly controlled. We provide defensive systems and non-lethal weapons to peacekeeping forces. The most advanced offensive capabilities remain exclusively human. That's how it needs to stay, Lee agreed. Power without wisdom is too dangerous to share, Ambassador. Hyun Nam was meeting with a delegation from the Outer Rim worlds, species that had remained neutral during the war but were now seeking to join the Protectorate. Ambassador, said the Corvani representative, our worlds have maintained independence for centuries. Why should we now accept human oversight? Because independence without the ability to defend it is just temporary freedom, Nam replied. The galaxy has seen what happens when aggressive species view others as easy targets. Under the Protectorate, your independence is guaranteed. And the price. The same price all members pay. Peaceful resolution of disputes, fair treatment of other species, and acceptance that violence will not be tolerated as a solution to political problems. The Corvani delegate considered this, and if we choose not to join, then you remain free to make that choice. But you also remain without protection if other species decide to threaten you. We learn from the hegemony's mistake. We will not force anyone to accept our protection. But we also will not extend it to those who refuse it. Scholar Nerix, now in his final years, was completing his comprehensive study of the post-war galaxy. His research showed fundamental changes in how species interacted with each other. The human victory created what I call the Protectorate effect, he explained to his research team. Species no longer see military aggression as a viable path to gaining resources or territory. They know that any serious conflict will result in human intervention, and no species wants to face human military forces. Is this a stable system? Asked his assistant, Scholar Quillex. More stable than anything we have seen before. Previous galactic orders relied on balance of power between roughly equal forces. The Protectorate system relies on overwhelming human superiority that is exercised with restraint and wisdom. As long as humans continue to use their power responsibly, this peace could last for millennia. War Prime Kellex, now serving as defense coordinator for the reformed hegemony worlds, was addressing a gathering of young officers from his former military. You were not alive during the war, he told them, but you live with its consequences every day. Our people made the mistake of believing that humans were weak because they chose peace. We learned too late that they were the strongest species in the galaxy, held back only by their own moral restraint. Sir, one of the young officers asked, do you regret that we lost the war? Kellex looked around the room at faces representing the new generation of his species. I regret that the war was necessary. I regret the lives lost on both sides. But I do not regret the outcome. Our people are better than they ever were under the old system. We have purpose beyond conquest, security without fear, and a future built on cooperation rather than domination. High Chancellor Vorth, now elderly and living quietly on New Hegemon, received regular visits from his daughter, who had become one of the most respected leaders in the reformed government. Father, Minister Lyric said during her weekly visit, the infrastructure projects are ahead of schedule. The humans have provided technology that will improve living conditions on all our worlds. And the people, Vorth asked, are they happy? Happier than they ever were under our military rule. Children grow up learning cooperation instead of conquest. Adults work on building rather than destroying. We have become what we could have been centuries ago if we had chosen wisdom over war. Vorth nodded slowly. I spent my life building an empire based on fear and aggression. You are building a civilizatio based on hope and cooperation. I am proud of what you have accomplished. The 5th Annual Galactic Peace conference concluded with the signing of the New Covenant, an agreement that formalized the relationship between humanity and the rest of galactic civilization. The document established humanity's role as protector and mediator, while guaranteeing the rights and freedoms of all member species. Admiral Kim delivered the closing address. 5 years ago, humanity was forced to reveal our true capabilities to protect innocent lives. We did not seek the role of galactic guardian, but we accept it with the full understanding of its responsibilities. We will continue to prefer diplomacy to warfare, cooperation to conquest, and peace to victory. But we will never again allow any species to mistake our restraint for weakness. As delegates returned to their home worlds, they carried with them the knowledge that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The age of species conquering each other through military force was over. The age of cooperation under human protection had begun. In his final journal entry, Scholar Nerex wrote, "Humanity saved the galaxy not by conquering it, but by demonstrating that true power lies in knowing when not to use the ultimate weapons at your disposal. They could have become tyrants ruling through fear. Instead, they chose to become guardians protecting through wisdom. The galaxy is forever changed by their choice to show mercy to those who would have shown none to them." The new galactic order was built on a simple principle. Those with the greatest power must use it with the greatest restraint. Humanity had proven they understood this principle better than any species in galactic history. The Deathworlders had not just won a war, they had won the right to define what peace meant for an entire galaxy. And their definition of peace was something beautiful enough to last for ages.